Welcome to another episode of the Modern Women's Podcast. And this week we have got Elizma and myself, Nick. So it's just a duo today.
What are we talking about today, Nick?
We're talking all about skin today. So really cool. Got some really cool topics to cover. And obviously skin is a really important factor for a lot of women, particularly aesthetically and when we're talking about aging and that sort of thing. So we want to look at ways that we can sort of minimise skin damage and also slow down the aging process and a few other things as well that we can cover. So it's going to be a fun podcast.
Yeah, and you know, you're so right, Nick. I mean, the beauty industry likes, where skincare is kind of like very predominant. I mean, women spend a lot of money on a yearly basis on skincare, whether it's to do with pigmentation, whether it's to do with cellulite, whether it's to do with stretch marks, whether it's to do with wrinkles. I mean, I think we probably spend more on skincare than we do on weight loss even. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't have the figures, but, for women, it's a very important part of staying youthful and I guess conforming to society's idea of what women should look like.
Yes, there is that pressure for women to be ageless, which is quite hilarious. Women should not age, apparently.
No, apparently we should preserve ourselves so that we look the same, for a long time. But so very, I guess, interesting topic for a lot of women, understanding what happens with the skin during different stages, and that's kind of like important as well because that can kind of change the treatments and also the outcome of the treatments depending on what happens with the skin. So with all these different kind of skin conditions, there's different, I guess, factors involved. And if we understand that a little bit better, then we can also be more proactive in slowing down those processes or preventing some of those processes as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess what we might do is sort of break it down a little bit and we'll sort of go through a few different issues that can come up when we're looking at skin and sort of dive into each one a little bit deeper. So what about if we start with stretch marks?
That's a great one to start off with because that's also not really an old women's thing, is it? Because a lot of young girls, when they start going through puberty, that's kind of like when a lot of women get their first stretch marks. Yep. So that's probably the first, if you want to call it, skin condition that a lot of women experience because it often happens at puberty.
Yep.
And it's actually not that uncommon. I mean, we've got a paper here. This paper was published in it looks like the Journal of Cutaneous Aesthetic Surgery.
Fancy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So that's the journal. And in this paper, they reckon about 50 to 90% of pregnant women tend to get stretch marks during pregnancy. But then, of course, stretch marks in puberty is very common, and also bodybuilding, when they get that muscle hypertrophy, sudden weight loss, sudden weight gain. These are all very common reasons for stretch marks. Getting breast augmentation surgery as well. So anything where the skin has to stretch or accommodate changes in shape very quickly, where that collagen has to kind of like change shape very quickly, which is why it's important to, in terms of weight loss, slower weight loss and slower weight gain, will go a long way in helping to prevent stretch marks.
And that's a good point too, because stretch marks aren't just purely from weight gain. You can get them from weight loss, believe it or not, as well. So it's not just that you've put on weight. So, but you're right. The slower, more gradual, either weight gain or weight loss, you're less likely to have the that tearing and have the stretch marks as the effect.
Yep, absolutely. And we also know with stretch marks, often when they first start, they're actually more that reddish color, right?
Yeah.
And then with older stretch marks, they start getting more of that white appearance. And there's a very interesting reason for that. Apparently with the red stretch marks, when you first get them, they're very vascularized. Like there's a lot of little blood vessels and things like that in the stretch mark, which is why it gives you that reddish appearance. And interestingly enough, it's also the time where treatment is most effective.
Yes.
Is when they're red.
Yes. Yeah, that's the time to get them, because if you've had them for 5-10 years, there's not really much you can do other than let them fade, which they will go that white colour. But yes, when you first get them and they are that reddish colour, that's really the time to treat them then. Yeah.
So one of the more successful treatments for stretch marks seem to be things like laser therapy, and I'd say the reason for that is because with laser therapy, and I'm not an expert in laser therapy. I'm assuming there's lots of different types of laser therapies, different wavelengths that do different things. So I'm not trying to kind of, I guess, be an expert on it, but there are lasers or some lasers that work on focus on the hemoglobin or the oxyhemoglobin component, right, of the skin, which is why they're used for vascularization and things like that on the nose and the cheeks and things like that as well. And that seems to be why that works so well with that the reddish pigmented stretch marks, because it's got that vascular tissue inside it. And so that's when you get the best results using laser in that early stretch mark.
Yeah. And then what are some of the things we can do topically when we do see the appearance of stretch marks that could possibly help as well?
Well, I think moisturizing skin, great preventative. Once you already have the stretch marks, I think things like vitamin C topically can go a long way. Things like rosehip oil, which is high in vitamin C, is another one that we use a lot for stretch marks and scars and things like that as well. And that can definitely help with that fading process that you were talking about, Nick. So those are definitely some of the I guess nutritional factors that we can use.
Things like herbally, we can do the gotocolas, bilberries. They both work on that microvascular system as well, so that can be helpful there, and obviously really working on the skin health in general. So as far as things to put on naturally,
definitely worth doing those oils. And I have to say, having had 2 kids myself, I was very, very lucky that I did not get any stretch marks during my pregnancy. And whether it helped or not, I guess I swore by apricot kernel oil. I bathed myself in apricot kernel oil every day during my pregnancies and never got a stretch mark. So that's my, that's what I swear by.
Well, I mean, you're the one everyone loves to hate, aren't you? Because you've never experienced period pain and you never got stretch marks when you were pregnant. So women are going to hate you.
But I do have stretch marks from puberty though. So I don't think any one of us can really.
No, I don't think anyone really gets out of that one. No, too many women that got out of that one. So
that's kind of like also the areas which are more prone to stretch marks. So that will tend to be the hip area.
Yep, hip, inner thighs, sort of the outer thighs. So they're sort of the main areas that you will see them.
Yeah, stomach, I guess, for pregnancy.
Yes,
and then also breasts for pregnancy as well as for
augmentation and
things like that as well.
Interesting. Cool.
All right. So what about in terms of stretch marks? I mean, we also get there is some collagen degradation there, collagen damage. So I guess anything that can help and kind of slow down collagen damage, or even help and repair broken collagen, potentially can also help. That's just from a logical perspective. So I guess making sure that you have adequate nutrients to make collagen, whether that be amino acids, animal protein intake, vitamin C intake for that collagen formation. I believe that even zinc deficiency has also been associated with being more prone to get stretch marks as well.
Yeah, well, zinc's very important for skin health, but yes, definitely that can be a factor as well. So all of those nutrients are really important to make sure in overall general skin health, but when we're looking at stretch marks. But as we said earlier, once you've got them and you haven't treated them initially, it's just a matter of letting them fade.
You can just let them fade, for and it will fade, over time. I think I have seen some results where they have used, laser treatments as well, even in the older stretch marks, and it can fade them even a little bit more. But it's something that's probably one of the hardest skin things to really completely get rid of.
And I think they're natural. Nearly every woman has them, and I think that we, sometimes just need to let it go.
That's right.
Just it's part of being a woman.
That's right.
So,
I mean, if you and this is not to diss on Instagram models, but all of them will have stretch marks and
cellulite,
probably cellulite as well, and it's just a matter of. A lot of those pictures look very perfect, but I think every woman at some point suffers from this.
I think we've gone over a few times about that some of the things you see on social media aren't entirely factual, and a lot of particularly younger girls try to attain that, and we can then become detrimental because it's unattainable. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
that's something to be mindful of.
Right. So another common, I guess, calamity for women is
Calamity.
Oh.
I have not heard that word in a long time. I think a Western probably. That's the last time I heard
it's probably
calamity.
a bit of a strong word. I mean, calamity probably means something way more disastrous.
No, calamity is just very old school American Western.
Well,
Anyway.
I'll pull that one out just
Yeah.
to remind us of some of the grammar that our young generation has forgotten.
That's
So
right.
there you
That's
go.
right. Just a bit of schooling going on.
That's right. There you go. English lesson. All right. Another thing, I guess, that women struggle with is cellulite.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
If there was a cure for cellulite.
Oh, we'd be millionaires.
That's right. That there definitely would be.
Yeah.
And that was a very interesting statistic. Like this paper was from the International Journal of Women's Dermatology, and that showed that 80 to 90% of puber.
Pubescent?
What do you say?
Pubescent?
Post-pubertal.
Oh, post-pubertal.
Post-pubescent
This is a
women.
vocabulary
I know.
lesson today.
That's right. But yeah, 80 to 90% of
That's
women
huge. That's actually
have
huge, isn't it?
cellulite or have had cellulite at some
Yeah.
point in their life. That's pretty much the whole female population,
much.
apart from the supermodels.
Yes.
You know?
Well, they're just a breed of their own, aren't they?
That's right. And the interesting thing of cellulite is cellulite has nothing to do with being fat,
Yes.
because even skinny women can get cellulite.
Yes, definitely.
And that's kind of what's the word? It's a consonance. Is consonance a word?
Gee, I'm not sure. Is that sort of South African? Or I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know. I sometimes make up words.
You do make up words.
I know.
I usually just ignore them, but sometimes I just can't.
Well, it makes me feel better that I know that
Yeah,
skinny
that's true.
girls can also
Well, that's
get cellulite.
a comfort. Is
Maybe.
it a comfort? That you-
There was another word I was looking for.
Look,
but
I had
that's
this
okay.
issue last week with trying to find a word. I don't want to go there again.
No, that's right. Because then we may say something that has to be taken off
That's
there.
true.
But yeah, so cellulite is a big thing. And we actually have a little image here. And this is our attempt of printing the image, but we can...
We might have got the ratios to
We got the
image
ratios of it
compared to
wrong.
paper wrong.
But this is the picture of what happens, or what happens with collagen and fat in cellulite compared to normal skin. And you can see that the fat cells in the normal skin are like quite small, and then with the cellulite you get these the fat cells are very large, and then it's a kind of sort of like press. I don't want to say through, but press against the collagen that's surrounding them, and that's what gives it that bumpy kind of texture.
It's a bit like
Yeah, what did we say?
yesterday? The garlic press.
The garlic press. You know, you press the garlic and they kind of
oozes through.
ooze through.
Yeah, it's a good visual.
That's kind of what
Yeah.
cellulite is, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of where the difference is, because with obesity and just being overweight, the fat cells, so small little fat cells, they can go larger and they can become more. They can
Yes,
multiply.
multiply, yeah.
With your cellulite, it doesn't. It's just like a large fat cell. They don't necessarily increase in size or anything like that, but they kind of stay a little bit more stable. So definitely does not have anything to do necessarily with obesity or weight gain. I think it's probably very likely to even get obese people who probably don't have cellulite.
Yeah, that's not hugely uncommon.
Yeah.
I've seen larger women that don't have cellulite. So
Yeah, so there you go. Probably more, other reasons like genetic reasons can sometimes have an influence on who gets cellulite and who doesn't. Now, what's the common body areas where we tend to get cellulite if we're unlucky to have it?
the hips, butt, and thighs.
Yeah, so all that kind of the bottom areas.
Yeah, and what is that? That's a very hormonal area for women as well. So there's that hormonal driver involved also. Some women get it on their arms as well.
Like the on the, what do they call it?
The tuck
The tuck shop.
I'm sorry
lady
to all the tuck
arms.
shop lady out there.
Yeah, we're not discriminating against tuck shop
No, not
ladies,
at all.
no. But yeah, so the older women on that kind of back arm
That's
area.
right. So the bat wings.
The back wings.
Bat wings. Have you not heard that saying?
Bat wings or back wings?
Oh, gee, we're really struggling with our words today.
Bat wings.
Bat
all right.
wings. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, so cellulite on the bat wings.
Yes.
There you go.
So if you've got cellulite on your bat wings, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, no.
And
Yeah.
so that kind of gives it that, I guess, orange peel look.
Yeah.
We all can identify with that kind of orange peel look. And so with, I guess when we look at some of the causes of cellulite, we can kind of define it in kind of like 3 categories: hormonal, like you mentioned,
Yep.
big one. Then also in more like a vascular inflammation kind of a category. And then we can ask, well, what causes the inflammation? As we know, lots of things can cause inflammation: stress, adrenal insufficiency, infections and things like that. And then also structural causes. Yes. I guess where that's that shortening of the collagen fibers and things like that. Now, there's a lot of products on the market for cellulite.
So many products. And most of them don't do much.
No.
But there's a few out there that have, they have some scientific backing. I think we've got a little bit in here about some of that, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We found, in the same paper that we've mentioned, that they've kind of looked at some of the natural components, and they picked out, this certainly will not be the only things, but your methyl xanthines is one component, one natural component, and then the retinoids, which is vitamin A.
Yes.
Now, we have spoken in the guys podcast about methyl xanthines before, because methyl xanthine is a component or an active ingredient found in certain herbs or plants, such as coffee bean. Yerba mate is a herb that contains the methyl xanthines, and cacao, or theobroma, that also contains the methyl xanthines. And that's, if you think about it, They do the coffee scrubs and the caffeine in a lot of these creams.
They do, yeah.
The cellulite creams.
And what do they all have in common? They're all stimulants.
So they're all stimulants.
Yeah.
That's right. And then the vitamin A, that's another component. We'll talk a little bit about vitamin A with Wrinkles and things like that as well. So what do they actually do in cellulite? Well, I could not memorize this whole little paragraph, so I'm just going to quote it from the paper, because I'm, why try to mimic an expert if someone's already done it? So in this paper, that was published in Internal Journal of Women's Dermatology, it's called The Treatment for Cellulite. They say that methyl xanthines are hypothesized to improve cellulite by stimulating lipolysis, that's breaking down fat, as we know, and also inhibiting the enzyme phosphodiesterase, which then increases the concentration of cyclic AMP, which is like a energy precursor molecule. And then the retinoids, or the vitamin A, works a little bit differently. They are thought to reduce cellulite by increasing dermal thickness, so that's making the skin a little bit thicker, and then also increasing angiogenesis, which is more blood vessel formation, which then stimulates circulation, and then also making new connective tissue components as well, and kind of like, plumping that skin up a lot more. So that's 2 natural components that, according to this study, has been shown to improve cellulite. What other things are there that can sort of that has been shown to improve cellulite?
Well, I think improving your lymphatic system as well. So that can help with removing toxins, so toxic buildup, and obviously balancing hormones. So making sure that your estrogen is not you're not an estrogen dominant, or you don't have any issues with your ratios. So that can be something else that we can look at.
Yeah, because estrogen dominance is also often associated with cellulite, which is probably why men in general don't get cellulite unless they have estrogen dominance issues, which is a whole nother topic. But yeah, so keeping the hormones kind of in check. And yeah, the skin brushing, and massage.
Dry skin brushing is a good one. So brushing up towards your heart can be, again, that's stimulating that lymphatics as well. So, definitely that can be helpful for some people as well. Ensuring your detoxification pathways are working effectively as well. So, your phase 2 detox, phase 3 detox, making sure you're eliminating every day as well. Yep. So that's also part of it.
Doing the number 2s.
Oh, I said going to say number 3.
Oh, I almost said number 3 too, because it's phase 3 detoxification.
There is no number 3.
What's number 1 and 2 then?
I don't know what number 3 is, but we'll just leave it.
That's right. So yeah, absolutely. And so the dry skin brushing and the massage, it's probably more to do with that kind of stimulating circulation and things like that. And look, I want to say something. Like, I know there's a lot of people say, oh, that stuff is baloney, it doesn't work, it's more a mind over matter thing. But I remember, having some cellulite issues when I was a teenager, and I did this dry skin brushing, and I was very diligent. I think I even timed it. It could have been like 5 minutes a day or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe something like that. But I definitely found it made a huge difference with my cellulite in the space of a week or so.
Really? Within a week?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to have everyone is going to be out there dry screen brushing
That's
for 5 minutes a day now.
It's it gets a bit boring.
Please don't send us any emails if in a week's time you still have something.
It may not work for
or I'll send you Elizma's
everyone.
personal email. You can talk to her.
May not work for everyone. But I just, for me, I definitely found that it worked.
That's interesting.
So it's not. It doesn't break the bank, so it's definitely something that would
definitely.
be.
And look, and I think with a lot of these therapies as well, it encompasses everything. So you've got to make sure you're eating well, you're exercising, you're taking the right nutrition, and it all basically works together. You can't just, sit on the couch and eat McDonald's and dry skin brush and expect something to happen. No. So, but yeah, they definitely all have benefits for sure.
So exercise also, I mean, you don't really see athletes with cellulite, right? And I know they thin and they're very muscular and they have very low body fat, but it's also that exercise stimulating that circulation in that way. Definitely also seems to be helping a lot with things like cellulite. Yeah. I know that laser treatments apparently can sometimes be very effective. We had a few photos here that I thought was.
I think they were great results.
There was one.
Impressed.
This was a really good one.
Impressive.
So this was on looking at laser and light therapy apparently. So this is kind of like a before and after picture on this study. And I think
significant.
Yeah, we thought it was great. We were ready to go and
we were going to go straight down there.
That's right, and get some therapy ourselves, because that's a really good result, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of shows you that even just getting rid of that cellulite, even though there hasn't been any weight changes, it kind of like makes you look thinner anyway, right? By just not having that cellulite. So it's the laser therapy seems to be very effective as well.
There's another therapy as well. Is it the the fat freezing?
That's right.
Yeah, which is it's a little bit newer than laser. Apparently you can get it done in shopping centres now.
Really?
Yeah, it's that common and it's quite inexpensive as well. So, and at this point in time, the research is showing that it works quite well. So, they just freeze the fat, and within 3 to 4 months, it obviously breaks down and your body starts to eliminate it, and it apparently is quite effective.
So it freezes and it kind of like causes the destruction of the fat cells.
Yeah, so it freezes the fat and then it starts to shatter over the course of a few months, and when it shatters and breaks down, then your body will just eliminate it.
Probably through the lymphatic system and et cetera,
And apparently it's different to liposuction. Because in liposuction, you can actually have strange fat pockets come back in different areas. I mean, I actually knew somebody once who ended up with a big fat pocket on the side of their quad, which is kind of strange. So there's that issue with liposuction, and it's quite aggressive as well, liposuction, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's definitely also, I mean, there has been cases of deaths whilst doing liposuction, because remember, there's a lot of blood vessels in fat. It used to fascinate me because I did what do you call it, dissection as part of my training, human dissection, and when you start kind of like removing the fat and stuff like that, there's a lot of blood vessels that actually interweaves between the fat cells. So if they nick a large blood vessel, which they can't necessarily see,
and the way that they're suctioning out the fat with them, they're doing it very vigorously, so I don't think they're going to be looking for that. So yes, but the fat, I don't know what it's called, fat freezing. Sounds
both something like fat freezing.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, it's you just go in. There's no operation involved. There's no nothing like that. So you go
low risk,
very low risk. Yeah.
So things like your laser treatment, radio wave treatment, or frequency treatment. I think it's wave frequency treatments, and like the cryotherapy, very low risk, not invasive. So definitely, if you've got the money, you could spend on that and see what gets you the best result.
Yeah. definitely.
Because one of the ways that was quite interesting, when I looked at like, okay, well, how does laser work with cellulite? Is it seems to be the heat that it generates.
Yes.
So it's that localized heat that it generates under the skin, which can then kind of apparently it helps. It causes the collagen to break down, and then that renews back again, and it also encourages the fat cells to. Or I guess encourage that process of lipolysis, or fat being broken down into smaller fatty acids. So breaking the fat down and regenerating that collagen, you're going to get that smoother kind of skin surface again.
Okay.
So there you go. So in cellulite, a lot we can do. It's not like stretch marks.
Yes.
Where you're pretty much got to make the best of the situation. With cellulite, definitely reversible.
Completely.
Anyway, any age you are at, for some people just may be a little bit harder than others, depending on genetic issues and hormonal issues and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent.
All right, so that's cellulite. Now we get to some of the really good stuff.
This is the stuff we all want to know about.
Turning back the clock.
Yes.
Wrinkles.
Yes, that's the big one, isn't it?
That is the big one. So to kind of show people what happens with wrinkly skin, this is our other very cool image. As you can see there, it's got like a part of what skin kind of looks like at age 35, at age 45, and at age 55. And if you look down at the bottom, so there's elastin and collagen, and you can see how that diminishes over time. So those structures, if you look at the age 35, you need that collagen and that elastin to kind of almost keep the skin stable. And as it breaks down, there's less of those fibers that can keep the skin stable, and so then you start getting that skin sagging. Because that collagen and elastin kind of makes up we call it like the extracellular matrix. And the extracellular matrix, the best way I can explain it, it's like these tangles, in between cells. And they kind of like, they hold on to pieces, and they let them kind of like, they keep them stable, but then also movable as well, which is why everything is not just static in our bodies. Everything is allowed to move, but it needs a little bit of structure. So essentially with aging, you start to lose that structure.
You do. It's very depressing.
Well, it is. But again, there's lots of things that we can do to kind of prevent, slow down, and even reverse wrinkles to some extent as well. Now, what I found really interesting is there's two types of aging or wrinkles, if you want to call it that, right? So you get the traditional wrinkle formation, which is just the natural way of aging. So usually the skin just gets thinner because you lose estrogen. The skin gets drier because of the loss of estrogen, and you get these fine wrinkles. So that's your natural aging.
Yes.
But then there's another form of, aging. They call it photo aging. And that's a little bit more what you do in your younger years, right? That can kind of catch up with you eventually.
Yes. Yep. We all like bake in not these days. When I was growing up, that was, you'd lather yourself in cooking oil, believe it or not. It's horrific.
Really?
Yeah. And then you go lay in the sun for hours on end. There was no sun-safe messages back then, clearly.
No.
Yeah.
That's actually funny you say that. When I was in uni, like my best friend at the time, she used to rub herself in baby oil and lie in the sun.
That's different.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go any further with that.
Did I say something wrong?
I mean, cooking oil, yes. But baby oil, I don't know. I've always thought that was used for other things, but that's okay. But
well, yeah, babies.
Babies, that's what they. Okay. Anyway, right. But it's the same. It's the same thing, right? Yeah, it's the same principle. So
put oil on, attract sun,
right?
Cook.
Yeah. I mean, it's like cooking a steak, really, isn't it? Or a piece of fish in the pan. Put your oil in, whack the flesh on, and. Watch it sizzle.
Rub in butter.
rub it in butter. We could do butter. Oh, butter would we just smell a bit funny with butter. Well, they smell a bit funny with olive oil as well. I don't know.
But that's right. So that type of photo aging, then the skin looks a little bit different. So right. So with the natural aging, where the skin is like more, it's thinner wrinkles or thinner lines, thinner skin. With this type of aging, it's a little bit the opposite. The skin actually becomes thicker or more hypertrophied. There's also the wrinkles seem to be a lot deeper as well. So you get more that deeper kind of wrinkles. And it's, if you've ever seen photos of old farmers.
I was just going to say the farmer look.
Farmer look, right? I mean, they...
Just very weathered look.
Very weathered look, and I actually find that in a strange way beautiful. For me, that's very characteristic, right?
Yes.
So I see beauty in a lot of that kind of stuff. So for me, it's not like, oh, you're old and you've damaged your skin. No. That's just like a life of hard work. Tells a story, right? So for me, I find some kind of beauty in that. But that's the kind of wrinkles that you get with that photo aging.
Yes.
Which is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is either way, it doesn't matter what type of aging it is, it's usually to do with two things that happen to collagen. Now, one of them is the breakdown of collagen. So collagen is being broken down faster than it repairs, which kind of leads into the second reason, that the collagen repair process slows down as we age, and the cell cycle lengths start to increase. And so that whole repair process just gets slower as we age. But if you do anything that breaks down collagen faster, we're going to age prematurely.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that can cause that collagen to break down? It's like inflammation, right? So inflammation causes that to break down. And then if you look at what's the stuff that causes inflammation, I mean, there's so many lifestyle things.
So many things. So stress is a big one, environmental pollutants, smoking, all those sort of external factors can really have play a part in that.
Yep.
Cause oxidative stress and that sort of thing.
Because that's kind of what sunlight does. It inflames the skin, right?
It does, yeah.
But then, the internal stuff like the smoking, alcohol, I even think sugar, anything that causes excessive inflammation in the body. I even want to go as far as say gluten and dairy, although there's obviously no papers that links gluten and dairy to wrinkles. But we know that gluten and dairy in some people can also be inflammatory. So anything that kind of stimulates that inflammation process.
Yeah, well, if you're reacting to gluten and dairy, then it is causing inflammation. So they're the people that need to focus on removing it and figuring out the reason why. But yes, anything that causes inflammation definitely is a factor.
Yeah. So something I thought of, this morning before our podcast is there's also another thing that has been, it's kind of like part of the whole inflammatory process, but even Candida infections. And I think that goes, to be honest, I think that goes for any kind of gut infection. But I know with Candida specifically, Candida overgrowth or can produce compounds such as tartaric acid and arabinose, which has been shown to also cause a degradation of collagen structures as well. So hypothetically, and again, there's no study that necessarily links Candida to wrinkles, but because it has an effect on collagen fibers, if someone, I guess, does have Candida overgrowth for years and years and years and years and don't necessarily address it, possibly could also maybe hasten that aging process as well.
Isn't that interesting? Because then you've got the vitamin C link with collagen, but you've got the vitamin C link with Candida as well, isn't it? Is there a link with Candida and vitamin C, or is it the oxalates?
It's more the oxalates, yeah. So I know that, Candida, there possibly is a
if you have
there.
a fairly significant overgrowth of Candida, a lot of times we'll see high oxalates as well, and that's when we have to back off the vitamin C because that can increase oxalates further.
Yes.
So I guess just bringing it back to that, I like connections.
Yeah.
I like bringing things into a connection. So that connection of the high Candida and then the vitamin C helping with collagen synthesis.
Yep.
But then the Candida being, detrimental to that. So
and we know that collagen can also be broken down into oxalate crystals as well, in the presence of certain nutrient deficiencies such as vitamin B6 and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then we know also when you have Candida overgrowth, you tend to get sugar cravings.
Yes.
Another inflammatory food, right? You usually, eat more processed foods and more pro-inflammatory foods when you have Candida overgrowth as well. So all of those components. So anyone out there who thinks they may have, when they have like chronic Candida infections, definitely worthwhile to check into that and get someone who knows how to treat, these infections and see if you can get that under control. To
and
help
it's not that.
prevent
It's sometimes we see clients that will do organic acid testing with it, don't have a lot of Candida symptoms, and their arabinose is through the roof. So it's not always obvious.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
That's right. So, if you, it may not be that obvious, but I guess uncontrolled sugar cravings is usually
that's
a big
one. Yes.
red flag to kind of look at something like Candida overgrowth. So I thought that was very interesting because I kind of remembered that a little bit from a lecture I gave years ago. And I thought, that'll be a good one to kind of just enter in there. So then if we look at like the treatment aspects, so we've got kind of like, because we know that it's to do both with the breakdown of collagen and also not making the collagen or that collagen making process slowing down, that makes it kind of easy when we look at treatment options.
Yes.
Because if we look at treatment from, let's say, the first thing, the first cause, which is collagen breaking down too quickly, what's the type of things that we would do there to help and stop or slow down the process of collagen being broken down?
Well, you mean nutritionally? Or?
Yeah, nutritionally.
Yeah, so your amino acids are really important. So hydroxyproline is a big one in collagen production. Your vitamin C is really important as well for the collagen synthesis. So that the hydroxyproline, the collagen, vitamin C, that really helps and kind of like speeds up that building up of the collagen, Yeah.
And we've got to remember also with vitamin C, doesn't stay in the body for very long.
Yeah.
I think it's got a half-life of about 4 to 6 hours or so. Whether it's food-wise or supplement-wise, it is a water-soluble vitamin that we need to get in quite regularly in our diet. And luckily, there's a lot of foods that are vitamin C rich.
Yeah.
But we have to kind of look at in-season eating because a lot of that fruits and vegetables that have been stored for a long time often have very, very low, if any, vitamin C content. So organic in-season eating, you generally will get your vitamin C intake there, but very important to get that on a regular basis.
Definitely, yeah. And also very important not to overdo your vitamin C. Obviously, you can't do that with food, but supplementation, I see a lot of people that really mega dose vitamin C, which can be detrimental because then it can become a pro-oxidant and have the opposite effect. So you want to be careful about that.
Very good point. It becomes a pro-oxidant, which does the opposite.
Yes.
It damages or creates free radicals, which then damages the skin.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the old adage of more is not always better.
So in terms of supplements, like what kind of dosage would be what I call a hormetic dose, where is it hormetic or hermetic?
Gee, I don't know. Let's go back. I don't know. I don't know if that was just your accent coming in there or
maybe. Well, we'll just say, I'm going to say hormetic, and it's my accent if it's the other one.
I think hormetic. I don't have any excuses. I don't have an accent. Unless you're living in another country, then I do.
So that's kind of like that ideal dose. Yeah. Not too little, not too much.
Yeah.
What's kind of like the dosage you like to recommend?
Oh, well, it's funny because years and years ago, I used to recommend 3,000 and 4,000 milligrams or 3 to 4 grams. Now I go back to about 500 milligrams.
Twice a day, right?
Yeah.
That gives you like a really nice balanced amount.
Yeah.
And so on something like 500 milligrams twice a day for those who are worried about vitamin C being converted into oxalates, it's not likely to happen. I don't have the study with me, but I know that when I lectured on this a couple of years ago, I looked at a paper, and this paper didn't found any increased oxalate formation of vitamin C under 2,000 milligrams per day or 2 grams per day. So it's only really when you get into that higher kind of dosages where this may become an issue.
And I know early on when I started naturopathy, it was all about high dose vitamin C for adrenal health and that sort of thing. And they were mega dosing it, up to 10 grams a day. I was reading some people, and that's way too much.
Even for immune function, right? Yeah. Like it was cold and flu season, people would do like these massive doses to the point of diarrhea, right?
Yeah. That was when they knew they'd had enough, and the diarrhea started. Think, okay, I'm at my limit now, which is, not the best marker, but anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So vitamin C, great one. And then, because we know that inflammation is such a big driver also of that collagen destruction, I guess your antioxidant foods, right? So anything like with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, anything that's anti-inflammatory, your turmerics and your gingers and things like that, those kinds of foods. polyphenols. In this paper...
Polyphenols is a big one.
That's a big one. So this paper, which was printed in the Dermatoendocrinology, it was called Skin Anti-Aging Strategies. They mentioned polyphenols in there as being hugely important as an antioxidant and helping to slow down the degradation of collagen.
And they can also be protective from UV-induced skin damage as well. So that's another thing as far as sun.
Yeah, I think there was one herb green tea.
Green tea, yeah, huge, quite well researched green tea for that UV protection.
And with, of course, following it like what we call an anti-inflammatory diet, which is just really whole foods
and unprocessed foods.
Yep,
really.
So anything like that would also go a long way in helping to slow down wrinkles. You know. Because you'll see, generally your people, not just women, men as well. If you see men and women who follow these, they drink like the green. There's problems with green juices that is a whole other thing. Yeah. But having a lot of antioxidant-rich foods, vegetables and things like that, very low inflammatory processed foods. They generally always look younger, don't they?
And I think it's more widely known now than it used to be. But it used to be that people wouldn't think too much about what they were putting in their body. It was what they were putting on their body that they were trying to create change. But what you put in your body obviously makes a huge difference. And the earlier you can start, the better you will be as you age. So, if you're in your 20s now, I know a lot of 20-year-olds that don't think about that sort of thing. So, but if you think about it now, when you are in your 50s and 60s, I won't say 40s because you're still young in your 40s.
Thank you.
Aren't you? It really makes a huge difference. Not to say that if you are in your sort of 40s and your 50s that you can't still do a lot of things to help now.
That's very, very right, Nick. And I think for the young people, the two things I guess that would probably make a big difference is, one, the sun, right? Sun protection, whether not staying in the sun for too long, wearing hats, all of that kind of stuff, using sunscreen. And two would be the alcohol, right?
Yeah,
because if you start drinking at a very young age and binge drink and all of that kind of stuff, generally that kind of, and even smoking, I know smoking is not really that popular amongst teenagers as what it was when we grew up, but those bad habits, if started early on, is very likely to set you up for not looking that great when you're 40, 50, 60 years old.
Alcohol. People who have drank a lot of alcohol have a particular look, so it can be really damaging to the skin. Yeah,
and you also get, apart from the aging, you also get the
capillary damage.
The capillary damage,
face,
right? Which is another thing that a lot of women, want to get laser or IPL or those kinds of things for.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I thought, I want to kind of mention as well, because you forget about now with smokers, right? So with smokers, they get the wrinkles around the mouth, right? Yeah. And it's because they do this, right?
Yeah.
But it's also straws.
I know, because I read that in your notes and I'm like, I never would have thought of straws. But in this age that we're in now and everybody's using their own, they're getting those reusable straws and everyone's using straws all the time now.
So if you suck through a straw every day, it's the same kind of motion as with a cigarette, right?
Yeah.
And so it was actually something I read years ago that says don't drink through straws, and I thought, that's actually because of the wrinkles. And so I stopped drinking through. I think that was when I was 25. I read this and I was like, well, that's it. Straws are done for me.
Wow.
So stop using straws.
That was a long time ago. 20.
It's not that long ago, Nick. No, it is that long ago.
Look, it is. Let's just face it. 20 years is 20. I still sometimes think the 90s were only not long ago, and then I realize, 30 years ago.
Yeah, Britney Spears, and you're like, that's the other day, and then you see her, she's now in the news, and she's so old, and it's where did the time go?
When you're getting old, when you see all those the really hot celebrities you grew up watching that are actually old people now,
like the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, it's just depressing.
And New Kids on the Block. What are they now, grandpas or something?
No, I know, it's just sad. I don't know what's going on.
I know. And then you look in the mirror and you're like,
you're like, hang on.
Yes.
Who are you? What did you do with my body?
Yeah, you can sometimes keep thinking that you're 21.
Well, you don't age in your mind, do you?
No, that's right.
And I used to remember my mum saying all the time when she was 40 and 50 and 60, sorry, mum, and 70, I still feel 21. I'm like, oh, mum. And now I'm like, no, you're right.
Yeah,
you don't.
Absolutely. I still act like a little naughty teenager at home sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of the universe's big jokes. It's like, let's make you not age in your mind, but then we'll put you in front of a mirror and go, hang on, this doesn't match up.
That's right. So you got this,
I'm not adulting. Like
this weird, wrinkly old woman acting like a little
and then
kid.
it just all becomes wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Then they put you in a mental institute and it's done.
Boy, we spiraled very quickly, didn't we? And that's what you got to look forward to when you get old.
That's right. So back to straws.
Yes,
Don't drink through straws.
Don't drink through straws.
No, just drink from the bottle, I guess, in the glass.
Yeah, your recyclable water bottle.
From your glass water bottle or your stainless steel or
yeah.
just a glass.
Yeah,
no plastic.
No plastic. No.
There you go. All right, so that's like a lot of the stuff of aging. So you get the skin sagging. That's also when that collagen starts to destruct. It's not just the deep wrinkles you get. You also get the cheeks starting to hang a little bit. So anything that you can do to slow down that collagen degradation process, like the diet and lifestyle things that we've talked about, can go a long way. Yeah. And it's, collagen is also, I'm going to digress a little bit, but that's also got to do with the breasts as well, right? With the boob sagging, because you have a lot of collagen structures that kind of gives us the nice, young, perky looking, breasts, I guess. Yes. So that's kind of like part of that aging process when that collagen starts to break down. So it affects not just the skin, it also affects other parts of the body, and you get a lot more sagging in other parts as well.
Yeah, it's all depressing, isn't it?
Well, it's it is. Well, it shouldn't be depressing.
No, it shouldn't be depressing. We should age gracefully and embrace our aging.
Yep. And I guess for me, that's an important segue to a very important quote. So I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it is something like along the lines of, looking better and looking healthier does not necessarily equate looking younger.
Yes.
And that's
spoke about this the other day, didn't we?
Yes. So looking younger can mean getting Botox fillers, and which doesn't actually make you look younger in a lot of cases, unfortunately. But you can look healthy and you can look good, and you don't necessarily have to pursue looking younger.
Yes.
So it's kind of that aging gracefully and aging as best as you can. And that's kind of like what I've seen with a lot of the older Hollywood actresses who haven't, maybe they've had work done, but you definitely can't see it. And a lot of those older Hollywood actresses who tend to age very gracefully, they have that first form of wrinkles that we spoke about. It's more where their skin thin, the thinner wrinkles, right? Whereas women who've, I guess, had more things done, probably not taking care of themselves, they get more that other look, which is a lot more aging actually.
It is
the natural aging process.
Yeah, you see so many younger celebrities and things that have plastic surgery, and they actually do look older. They've made themselves look older in a kind of strange sort of a way. So, yeah, I think aging gracefully is the ultimate. And like exactly what you said, Elizma, being healthy for your age, the healthiest that you can be, and not accelerating that aging process. So we're not trying to go backwards. We're not trying to be 20. Oh, it wouldn't be bad, but I don't think I want to look 20 again.
No, actually, I'm quite, especially things like laughter wrinkles. Right. So many women trying to get rid of their crow's feet, but that's laughter lines. See, I like to look at the positive.
Yeah,
it's laughter lines.
It's all part of the wisdom of your life. Yeah. You show it on your face. So.
You probably don't want to have frown lines.
No.
But
frown lines.
No, but things like sometimes there's like I said, there's beauty in a lot of these things, and I think that's what we have to do as women is we need to start seeing the beauty in a lot of this, and not necessarily feel that there's something wrong that we need to fix. Of course, I also sometimes get laser and stuff like that done because I have that heritage where I get a lot of the blood vessels and things like that. So there's nothing wrong with getting any of these things done, but as long as it's from a place of you still being happy with who you are and still being confident as a woman with who you are, and not trying to be something for someone else or for society. It's usually more for society, right?
So I think that's the big message in media and social media, that women should be youthful and beautiful forever and never age, and that's not the reality. So I think just being healthy for your age is the ultimate goal. Especially because we know that lighting, filters, all of that stuff takes the wrinkles magically away. Photoshop,
and that's the stuff we see on social media. So banging yourself up because you don't look like whoever, it's just not
Well, then you're wasting half your life trying to be something that you can't attain anyway, and then you're missing out on just enjoying it. So embrace it.
That's right. So I think something that would be really cool to touch on, especially since we're talking about wrinkles and aging and photo aging specifically, is having a bit of a explanation on sunscreens as well, because we do have to protect our skin against excessive sun damage, which can be done in a variety of ways, either not spending too much time in the sun, wearing a hat, or using sunscreens. So something that I thought would be really important to kind of just explain a little bit better for people, because we tend to sometimes, we just, make assumptions about things, is the different SPF factors. So you get, I'm going to use SPF 15, SPF 30, and SPF 50 as an example. So a lot of people think that an SPF 30 is twice as strong as an SPF 15, for instance. So to put it kind of in context, an SPF 15 plus provides about 93% protection. An SPF 30 plus usually provides 97% protection. Now that's only a difference of about 4%. And then from an SPF 30 to an SPF 50, an SPF 50 provides 98%. So from 97 to 98%, it's only a 1% difference from an SPF 30 to an SPF 50. So don't think that it's not actually that huge a difference between the different SPFs. Still, you can choose whichever one you want, but don't think that you're doubling your protection necessarily. That's not necessarily how these SPFs work.
Which is really interesting, because I don't think many people would know that.
I don't think so either. And so they may, especially since a lot of cosmetics these days, they put like SPF factors in tints, like foundations and skin moisturizers and things like that. And so, women may be making a decision based on SPF 15 to an SPF 30, thinking that she's doubling her protection. I guess it's just sometimes interesting to know that, look, it's small percentage differences. It may still make a big difference at the end of the day, but it's not quite as it's not quite as big as what people think.
That's really interesting.
And then if you look at the sun, in terms of sun damage, you got your UVA rays and your UVB rays. UVB rays are the kind of rays that's got to do with that severe sunburn and that sun damage and increased risk of cancer. And then your UVA rays is more the ones that's kind of, it's a little bit not quite as damaging, still can cause like inflammation and redness and sunburn, but more to do with wrinkle formation. So it's very important when you choose a sunscreen to choose a broad spectrum sunscreen. It kind of covers both rays. So that was kind of like on that. I guess the other things on, and we do want people to use sunscreen as per the, government regulations and government recommendations on preventing skin damage and skin cancer. So we're not in any way saying don't use sunscreens, but we have to kind of remember also that there's a lot of chemical components in these sunscreens.
For anything you're putting on your skin, you want it to be as natural as possible, not have chemicals. And there are some really good SPF rated natural sunscreens out there now as well. So there's plenty to choose from.
That's right. 20 years ago, maybe not, but these days there are a lot to choose from. And it's just about, having a look and seeing what brands are out there, and just choosing ones with, less harmful ingredients. But we'll have the links to a lot of those studies on the podcast as well for anyone who wants to look at it. But definitely still do the skin protection.
Definitely.
Just maybe try and use less harmful ways of doing it.
Just be natural as possible. Yeah. Well, I think that we've covered a fair bit today.
I think we have.
Yeah.
We've covered stretch marks, cellulite, wrinkles, and sunscreen.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good round out for today.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So hopefully the ladies out there got and even the gentlemen got, because, guys get wrinkles too. And if they're unlucky enough, cellulite too, and stretch marks.
We can't discriminate. Men get wrinkles too.
They do get wrinkles, and they do get stretch marks as well, especially the bodybuilders.
Yeah,
right?
quite
so
significantly.
Even though we may have talked about this more in a female context, definitely, same information applies to the gentleman as well. So hopefully everyone got something out of that. A lot of these things are reversible, or you can slow them down. It's not this is just how it is. It's just about taking care of yourself.
And it's like, and I feel like I'm saying this in every podcast now, but it comes back to the basics. Just healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, stress management, sleep, they're the foundations. If you can get them in balance, you really can slow down that aging process.
Absolutely. Reduce inflammation.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I know it's probably an overused word, but disease, aging, all that stuff, it's just accelerated inflammation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So take the stuff that causes the inflammation away and you kind of slow down all of those processes.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Well, I enjoyed that. I think that was great.
I think that was good too. That was great.
It was good. All right. Well, we will see you next time.
Yeah, awesome. See you guys.
So, skin is a very important part of our body. If we didn't have skin, we
It's definitely a very important part of the body.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess we'd be like just bloody skeletons walking around if we didn't have skin.
Less than a minute in. Okay. Sorry. I don't know what happened there, but as I said it, I just imagined someone falling apart because their skin was...
Are we boring you, Vanessa?
Oh,
what was that?
Oh, it's Anne.
I thought it was you yawning.
It's like,
I'm like,
can we just
I'm like,
speed
well,
this up?
that's a bit impolite.
It's like we're talking about
I know
women
we're
that
not
are
that
aging. I don't care.